and welcome back to the beauty related side of my channel, and welcome to a review I am excited to do and didn't even know I was excited to do because I had no idea that this particular palette existed until I was literally scrolling through Facebook minding my own business. But obviously, while minding my own business, the whole targeted marketing, targeted ads popped up, and I love how you look something up, or you even think about a brand, or you think about something you want to buy, and on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, there are ads everywhere for it. You even think about a brand and you're getting emails and you're getting, hey, heard you were thinking about us. And you're just over there like, I was, but how did you know I was? I mean, I know how you know I was, but why? And as I was scrolling through, viewing said targeted ads, Colourpop was all like, hey, guess what we've released? And I'm like, what have you released, Colourpop? There probably couldn't be possibly anything that you have released that could have any semblance of interest for me. And then they were like, you remember that rainbow palette that you bought in hopes that it would be the most amazing end-all be-all rainbow palette for you, and it ended up absolutely not being? Of course, Colourpop, how could I possibly forget? Well, we've made this palette in hopes to redeem ourselves, and goodness me, what a beautiful, beautiful palette it is. When I saw this, y'all know, my monochromatic, color-loving heart was aflutter within my chest. I saw this and I was like, I see monochromatic and I see bright colors, and on top of all that, I see that it is one big, giant, beautiful palette filled with mattes. Something within me swelled. There was a moment of, perhaps there is hope for the brand just yet. And if any of y'all know me, you know, irregardless of what the rest of this palette had, I was at least going to take a second look at this row. I mean, looking through, I was like, I probably have all of these, but good golly gosh, do these last three here really do it for me? And I mean, quite frankly, it wasn't even just the rainbowness, because a rainbow palette, it is what it is. Just because it's a collection of brightly colored whatevers doesn't necessarily mean it's amazing. But looking at this and looking at that nice little targeted Facebook ad, I was like, well, I hadn't seen it on Trend Mood. I mean, I did later, and I haven't really been on Trend Mood. Basically, I scroll through Trend Mood every once in a while to look for something that might potentially be on an anti-haul, or will I buy it, but I am not checking Trend Mood to see what makeup I want to buy, because that just hasn't been my thing. And so Facebook was coming in through for me on this, and I just, y'all know, the moment I saw this, I knew that I would have to do some sort of redemption review, because I bought that rainbow palette knowing I shouldn't have bought that rainbow palette because it had pressed glitters and shimmers and it didn't have a lot of gradation, whereas this is disgustingly beautiful and straightforward. In my mind, aesthetically going on here, this is everything that one should have been. This, whether this was released for Pride or not, I don't know. I was definitely not in the makeup stratosphere then, nor did I care, because Pride marketing gets me all kinds of agita. But if they did, props to them, because this is a Pride thing that I'm like, look, this is actually a well-curated rainbow palette that doesn't have rainbows all over it screaming, I'm gay. Woo! I mean, I love that. I'm all down for that. Woo! But I don't necessarily need it as the theme. It doesn't need to be like the I'm gay palette. It's just subtly gay. Just I am somewhat of a homosexual myself. So just for reference, we've got this one, which is the Fade Into Hue, which I bought and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna love it. Did not love it. Was actually very disappointed by it. It's got a crap ton of pressed glitters. The formula's inconsistent. You're not getting anything new. Whereas this is like, I mean, it's like clean. It's sophisticated. I mean, looking at these, It's like two different worlds. And I'm not talking like two different worlds as in they're like, oh, this one, it just looks so professional and so nice and enough ooh-wooing and ooh-gooing over it. Let's swatch it and talk about it on a whole. It is what I'm wearing on my amazingly illustrious peepers today. Very simple, very straightforward. We did ping pong. Yeah, we did ping pong all up in there, and then we went into type A all up in there, and then we did a bit of biker under there, and then did ping pong and type A in the outer whatever going on like this. All right, so I'm just gonna go row for row. We're gonna go color for color. I guess because of the way this is, we're gonna go deep to light. So let's just get into swatching all of this matte, colorful goodness. We've got Simple Syrup right here. Y'all know I am a fan of Colourpop when they do Colourpop right. For a brand that started from like one kind of single eyeshadow, they've got a lot of products on the market, and there's a lot more room for hit and miss and error. This was Lil Iffy. Then we've got Cola right here, and then Dream Girl right here, which quite honestly, y'all know, I am already a big fan of their monochromatic palettes. That's kind of honestly how I got a lot of my monochromatic kicks. Got those ones going on right there. Aren't swatching the best. I'm probably a little bit sweaty, a little bit weird textured. They're really, really nice and pigmented. I enjoyed using these a lot. You know, like I said, how big of a fan I am of those 9-pan palettes. The strawberry, I mean, the strawberry one, the watermelon one, the Just My Luck one. Like, so many of these were like my starts and my bread and butters into that whole monochromatic, colorful palettes that are honestly, like I said, my bread and butter today of being a colorful, makeup loving person. Then last but not least for that row, we've got Crazy Cool, which is the pasty whatever setting. Although I am pretty impressed with how light this goes, how not pasty they are. They still have a decent amount of pigment, and they're just not going to be a soft little pissy something setting shade. It's actually got color and tone to it, because y'all know I like me a gradation. I like me a nice color gradation. I don't want a little bit of cream with a little undertone of something, you know, even if it's the lightest shade. I want color. Then in this nice, I love for fall aside, monochromatic aside, just this like orangey, grungy, I've got a lipstick shade, that color now, just absolutely loving these shades. And I think that they have other matte palettes that are like these that I do think that if you already own, this is a little bit redundant for someone, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but for someone starting out who wants like all this colors and an all access pass, got this right here. I got all of them, and then I got this one because that's how I am. But we've got Sugar Rush right here, just fall, screams all things basic white girl and pumpkin spice. We've got Vibing, Screwdriver, and Lotta Gelato. Lotta Gelato, not my favorite formulation. It's that one. Is so nicely formulated, heckin' pigmented, doesn't have a lot of fallout, blends really nice. Then we have this one here. Again, second verse, same at the first. Same with this one, although this one gets a little kind of in that pissy whatever. They have other shades in other palettes that are like this that are better formulated than this one, in my personal opinion. Then again, last but not least, we've got Pow right here, which is kind of a, out of all of these two are the most disappointing. This three here did not come to play. They are really, really well formulated and just really pretty shades that have a nice level of gradation just amongst the three of them here. Now, the third row, we've got Camp, which is a really nice, I'm really loving the whole grungy neutral thing going on. Of course, I've never been a, normal neutral, like Melt Cosmetics is my neutral Gemini. That's neutral in my opinion. We've got Homework, then Can Do, which is an example of this more like yellowy shade that's much better formulated. And then Bus Stop, which we start getting a little bit similar going on there. Really nice. Again, really beautifully formulated, super smooth. This one, the swatch isn't coming out too well, but it works really well on the eye. I've gone in and just used this one and then deepened this out and put a nice gold champagne-y shimmery all over the lid and have that turn out really nice. And we have this beautiful daffodil mustard yellow, whatever that I love. My mom hates that color, and I'm like, give me that color in eyeshadow, give it to me in cozy sweaters, give it to me in lipstick. I want everything about this like puke mustard yellowy goldenrod color. Then we have this one right here, which unfortunately is a bit powdery, a bit chalky. You're gonna have to build it up, and it does have a tendency to kind of piff away on the eyelid. I would not consider this a home run for the brand at all. Then we have, last but not least, here, Elephant right here. Kind of same at the first. These two shades here, just, they're a bit more chalky, a bit more dry. I don't know if that has to do with the kind of color that they're using in order to get this, but it does just have a tendency to disappear and not really do anything on the lid compared to, say, this one or this one that just show up brighter and more opaque and pigmented. Don't know if that has to do with the fact that it being yellow. I don't use true yellow on my lids. Like, I think it's the Honey one that came out by Colourpop that I bought because I have a problem and I need all the monochromatic palettes, and I do pull it out from time to time. But these ones just weren't, I feel, as up to snuff as a lot of the other colors in the palette. Next up, my favorite is Alley Cat, which is this I love it. Like, I remember when Subculture like used this green and everyone's like, oh my goodness, it's so alternative and edgy. I love this like forest grunge olive khaki whatever this is. Got it going right here. So nicely formulated. This is a beautiful, beautiful green. I don't know if they have this kind of shade in a single. If they do, I hope it's formulated the same way because this is just so nice. It's just absolutely beautiful. Then we've got Kelp right here. A little bit drier, a little bit harder to pull up product. You all know that I like to kind of tap my brush in there and then pick up the excess, the fallout. Then Gone Meta, which is beautiful going on there. Let's see if we've got this right there. Again, you can see it's a bit drier, a bit patchier. It does pull off nice on the lid, but you are going to have to kind of pack it a little bit more and work a bit more on it than, say, a shade like this that just goes right in and stays and does not come to play. And then this one right here, again, a bit more powdery, but compared, I mean, different to the yellow, this one does have a lot more staying power, a lot more pigment, and it definitely isn't as like effervescent and fiffy off the eyelid as these two are. Then Say Less right here, which is, again, let's see here, running out of room, going on right here, a powdery, lighter formula like these two here, but just like this green right here, it does work a lot better on the eyes. It doesn't feel like you're desperately trying to pack the color on. It is lighter and a little bit more softer than some of the other ones and does take a bit to build up, but it does look really nice on the eyes and doesn't end up being cakey or super powdery. I'm gonna start swatching on the other arm. I hope that's not too awkward. Then we have the blues going on here. We have Type A, which is, this one was really nice to work on. That's what I have all in the deep upset incest of my the recesses of my crease. Then So Casual, which is also another really pretty cobalt blue. Be careful, tread lightly. This one is very powdery, as well as ping pong. You just want to touch that brush in there, and that gets you a really nice amount of payoff. This one is just so nicely formulated. It is a beautiful, cool toned, maybe just a little hint of gray in there. Then if you can see, there is a lot of pigment going on here. You just want to gently touch your brush in there and you are going to get pigment for days. And this one right here, again, just really well formulated, looks very, very nice, very just, again, these just all look really nice on the lid. I found that they blended really well without getting too ahead of myself here. This one right here is also very powdery. It's nicely pigmented. It's got a good amount of pigment without it being super crazy right off the bat. You don't have to build a lot to get that nice level of color, but it's not going to be, I feel like, as crazy as this one. This one is just, it's like Melt Cosmetics level of pigmented and almost Melt Cosmetics level of powdery as well. And lastly, Wonderful Purples. I really like these. They're a very grungy type of purple. Oh, I haven't been saying their names, I don't think. This one here is Fun, Fun, Fun. We've got Ta-da, Bop, and Igloo. I really like the level of gradation. These two are a little bit similar. I tend to be a little bit more nitpicky when it comes to color levels and differentiation. This one, these dark ones, these last ones in the rose are really, really nicely formulated. Then this one right here, also really nicely formulated. A little bit again on that heckin' pigmented side, a little bit powdery, but it is worth working with it and using it because it is so pretty when you're done. This one right here, a little bit piffy, a little bit pissy, not quite as opaque and intense as these ones. And then this one, which is a shade I really like. I apologize for the swatches being absolutely pitiful. Someone in the comment section below tell me how terrible my swatches are. And last, we've got this one here, Do or Die. And I realized I didn't do that last blue, so give me a minute. This one, again, kind of same as the first. I swatched it really crappy, but this one has a really nice level of pigmentation for you to build up without it getting too cakey, and then you can layer over it very nicely. Am I just missing shades all up in here? I think it's just the blue I missed. So this one is Got Iced. I don't know why I'm using it with that finger, but we're just gonna put this one right here, right on top of that. Again, similar to the other light ones, I feel like a lot of these ones are formulated the same as they go along through. Like all of these light ones have a tendency to be very similar. This one is very standout. The blue one is nice, and this one does build up nicely as well. All right, here we have that nice full spectrum of colors. That green is just so wonderful there. The blues are beautiful. I really like the purples. Really like these, really like these, really like that. All in all, it's got a lot of nice things going for it color theory wise. I'm gonna take a minute to take these swatches off, and then we'll talk about the palette on a whole. All right. Honestly, to just sort of cut to this chase, I think for all it is, this palette is pretty, I would say this is pretty good considering how hit and miss Colourpop has sort of become with a fair amount of their shadows and formulations. I think for how many shades that you get in this, and for that consistency, it is really good and comparable to a lot of the other formulations in the eyeshadows of the original 9-pan palettes. Now, taking into consideration the color stories we have going on here, I do think there is a nice level of differentiation and different shades that you get in this, that also complements and doesn't dupe out too much of those monochromatic palettes. I will say that if you happen to have the 9 pans for however many of these or anything like that, this would probably be a little bit of a redundant purchase. You do get some really nice standout greens like this one, and this one that are just really nice on their own, and I think are different enough from the Just My Luck. I really love these ones right here. I feel like for the main demographic for who's gonna want to get this palette is someone who doesn't have those monochromatic palettes, doesn't want to purchase them separately, and wants to just get sort of a really good book of shadows rainbow wise. If you're really attracted to using these colors, then you purchase this and you get all of these in one palette versus having 6 of the monochromatic ones. This is very user friendly. You've got all the colors you could possibly want of the rainbow. I would say that the quality is comparable to those 9-pan palettes, and to just have it all accessible in one palette makes it very appealing to the everyday color lover like me, as well as the matte lover like me, and someone who's wanting to dip their toes into color. I would say if you're wanting to get into color and you want something that's on the more affordable spectrum, other than, I would say, Colored Rain or Jeffree Star or a lot of the other higher end brands that are doing colors like this, because it is a good price point starting out, as well as a good formula. I am not mad at this purchase, even considering the fact that I'm sure I have these shades, if not in other palettes, and even if not in just Colourpop alone. Part of what really made me want to review this palette is just because now that I have this, I'll probably take this with me traveling a lot more than lugging around each of those individual monochromatic ones. This is just more practical for traveling. And all in all, and down at its bare bones, I really enjoyed this palette, and I'm sure I will continue to enjoy it. It has a lot of shades that I really like. These 3, a lot of these blue ones, just all in all, it is a solid palette color story wise, and I think that the amount of really well formulated shadows that you get outweighs the 3 or the 4 that are kind of a little bit throwaway. I mean, as much of a cop-out as this is, I think that's a good ratio, especially when dealing with the bit of touch-and-go, inconsistent formulations that Colourpop, I feel, has been a bit known for in the recent years. Long story short, I think this palette is a pretty solid buy for someone who enjoys color already like me, as well as someone who's wanting to get into color and wants to really have a good variety of options other than just picking one of the monochromatic palettes that already exist, especially considering the fact that a fair amount of them are discontinued now. I love the fact that it is all matte. Y'all have heard me say it before. The mattes build up the backbone of a palette, and this has a very nice, very established backbone, and I really look forward to using it more and for this to become a go-to palette when I'm going somewhere. Alright, I hope y'all enjoyed that review. I had a couple of you message me and being like, nudge nudge, wink wink, did you get a look of this, that what Colourpop released? Because I do really feel like that palette is what the Fade Into Hue, which I understand is a different palette, is a different concept and everything like that, yada yada yada. But I feel like the matte palette is what that Fade Into Hue palette should have been originally. It's very concise. It cuts out a lot of that middleman and that kind of unnecessary fluff in the Fade Into Hue palette, and just gives us a really good basic strong palette that's going to really have all of those elements that you want to build up on monochromatic looks and colorful pigments that are going to be, I feel like, an easier option both price point wise as well as formulation wise, other than say a palette like Colored Rain's Vivid Pigments that is going to be really intense and very sort of not user friendly, not beginner friendly formula, whereas this one caters to a wider range of skill levels. Would love to hear what y'all have to say about this palette, whether you love it, you hate it, your opinions on everything like that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. And as always, keep it real. Mwah.